Previous episode, I installed the range hood, sorted out the makeup air system, and got everything hooked up, which resolved the venting into the soffit issue, but still left the rest of the ducting to deal with. And after rejecting the idea of a bulkhead, there wasn't much in the way of any real solution other than just covering it up with something. That is, until I opened up the soffit and got the idea to reroute it through the cavity. Let's get a better view. This is the inside view from the left side. There's not too much in the way, only a couple of things to avoid. And here is the right side. So as usual, measurements first, transfer and scribe to get all the pieces cut, and I'm assembling these into C brackets and fastening them to the cavity siding. Getting the plywood pieces into the cavity was difficult. There were just enough things in the way in just enough places that required an almost endless back and forth. And once it was up there, it was even more of a struggle because now there were both the pieces and myself competing for the space. Some of them, like this top piece here, I was able to notch everything before taking it up. Once past the ordeal of getting it through the cavity, I could then immediately get it fastened, which in this case, I did it from above. Others, I had to scribe them on the spot, move them over just enough to make the cuts, and then back to its place to get it fastened. Now starting the right side elbow housing. This is the top piece, cut and notched, also getting fastened from above. So that's all the panels for the right side. And now on to the left side, basically mirroring the exact same thing with slightly different measurements. And there's the left side, complete. So with that out of the way, it was time to finally remove the last piece. By the way, all that black stuff, that means there's a lot of air movement up there. For the exiting duct, I combined a few elbows to angle past the boot, scribe the opening, cut out the circle, and secured it into place. These are the steel straps that I just took off from the inside, and I'm using them here to hang the ducts. So the length is good. No more adjustments needed there. And now to mark the cutout for the entry hole through the rim joist. So the only problem with this rim joist cavity is that there's not enough space for a jigsaw or a reciprocator to make the turn.
And there it is, the elbow entering, connected to the run up there. Okay, the next thing is to install some more strapping and then get on to foaming.
So big gaps, small gaps, knots, seams in the siding, and duct openings, all foamed and cut flush. And then it's time for Roxol, which is going to line the inside of the bulkhead at about 4 inches of thickness. I really like this stuff. It's so much easier to work with than the pink fiberglass. Anyways, once the ceiling and the sidewalls are done, the ducting goes back in and it gets taped so that the bottom pieces can complete the envelope. With the last step being the plywood covers.
Missing just a few pieces. So the duct is now covered. Just need to cut the bottom like that. And with that, the left side is done. All filled in. Just need to install the panels. And there it is. Right side finished also. And the rerouting is now done.
So the useless bulkhead with the crooked edges and the accursed ducting is no more. And as I'm watching this through the screen, I realize that the effect is not really translating, but I can assure you, in person, it is a significant improvement and 100% worth the effort. Because, yeah, working up in the soffit really sucked. So on to the casing. The first thing to go up is the guide strip. This and the laser is going to be what I use to set up the initial framing, where it will act as both an alignment guide and a stop block. So I do have to take the time to shim these, because none of the joists are actually straight nor square. And with the first two installed, in goes the front block and the rear block. And of course the exact same thing on the other side for the third and the fourth frames. So I edit them out for time's sake, but I do pre-drill. Pretty much always. After everything is secured to the joist, the front frames also get braced to each other by pairing the outermost together and then joining them in the middle. But before I do that, I'm going to put up some foam boards, fill the gap with spray foam, cut up the Roxol to size, and fit it into place. So with that out of the way, it's back to bracing the frame. And with that out of the way, it's back to rim joists. Also, I decided to move the outlet here. If you remember, this is the parallel branch from the dining room light that's going to power the range hood. With the last two pieces of Roxol cut and fitted into place, I'm moving on to applying the seal to the perimeter of the hood, which is a 1/2 inch wide, 3/16 thick neoprene weather stripping, and this is going to get compressed by the plywood sheathing that's going to be fastened on top of it. The framing does leave a 1/8 inch gap between the plywood and the hood perimeter, so it's compressing about 1/16, just enough to close the gap. And this is where I'm going to leave the casing for now. The tiling of this will probably be the last thing that I do. This entire unit is fully functional as is, so I'm going to move on to other things that are more pressing, that have actual dependencies. Next episode, is going to be insulation and hanging the drywall. Till then, that's about that.